All right. Can you cue the slides here? I know the program said be talking about privacy. I'm going to talk a little bit about privacy, but I'm going to talk about privacy in the broader context of identity. And because I think identity is pretty much broken on the internet. How many people agree with me? Good audience participation. How many people think it's okay, it's fine? Nobody. Okay, so I'm assuming that everybody else agrees with me that we need to do something. Let me tell you a little bit about me. I did we heard that I did the first optical mouse that now people all use. I did internet acceleration, did one of the first internet search engines. FrameMaker was my company, and I did an anti-spam company. So I've done a lot of things, but I'm also very similar to many of you. I have one wife, I've got 3 kids, I have 1 cat, 2 cars, and 352 usernames and passwords. And, you know, my wife told me that I had to get rid of one of those things. And so I'm now down to 351 usernames and passwords. So my quest to fix identity didn't actually start with the usernames and passwords, which were a pain. It actually started with my sister calling me up on the phone, and she said that her Yahoo account was compromised. And she asked me, well, what should I do? And because I'm the computer geek in the family, so I get all the service calls. And so I thought for a minute, and I said, okay, well, you know, you probably use that same password on all the websites, so why don't you change your password, and that should solve the problem. She said, no. On Yahoo, I use a different password, so I don't understand how they got my password. I said, well, maybe you have malware. Why don't you run a malware checker, and that'll solve the problem. And she said, well, if I change my password and I run a malware checker, how will I know that it's safe to log into my bank or PayPal? And so I thought for a minute. I said, well, you actually don't. You don't know whether it's safe, because those things may not work. Now, that's a really terrible thing to have to tell your sister in 2011. I mean, we've been doing this stuff for a long time, and I can't tell my sister it's safe for her to log into PayPal or her bank. I mean, so I started thinking about, well, you know, there's something here. Why is this not why haven't we solved this problem? We got all these smart people all over the place, and yet we can't seem to answer her question today. And you know, a lot of people have tried to keep your credit card secure, but we seem to have a problem with even keeping things like credit cards been around for a long time. I mean, those things don't seem to be secure, or counts usernames and passwords. Nobody seems to be able to protect those usernames and passwords. So, and then of course there are these annoyances. Like you create a new account and they said, well, your password's too short. And anybody ever have that problem that you know, they get those things? Or you know, it has to have the following special character, or at least one of the following special characters. It has to have upper and lower case, has to be 8 characters. You know, it has to be something you haven't used in the last 60 days, and you have to keep changing. You know, it's a real pain. And then there's the create a new account. So this is my, I have a Metro card for the Washington Metro, and I'm going to take a trip to DC at a user-centric ID conference. So I thought I'd register my Metro card. And they wanted me to fill out this entire form just to create an account, to give me the privilege of entering then a longer string on my Metro card to register my Metro card. So I had to have to enter security questions that, of course, you never remember. It's ridiculous. Checkout on every website. Boy, this is familiar. This is just one of the screens, you know, one of 3 or 4 or 5 screens that you have to fill out to check out. And then, of course, there's the improvement to security called like Google Authenticator. Hey, let's add 2-factor. So as if usernames and passwords are not good enough or frustrating enough, let me have you jump through yet another hoop. And let's make it more complex for people. And by the way, if you lose your Google Authenticator, then you're really screwed. Because not only didn't you remember your username and password, but now you have to figure out how to break through the 2-factor security, and you have to, you know, convince someone on the phone that it's really you. And, you know, I mean, this is not getting any better. And how about the case where you either lost or you had to change your credit card. Like my wife's, this is a real story. My wife went down to Cabo recently, and she put her credit card in the machine, and the power went out in Cabo. So her credit card was essentially eaten by the machine. So she wrote a message to the bank saying, please cancel my credit card. So the next day, my credit card stopped working because we're with the same account, and they canceled my credit card instead of her credit card. Now, so I immediately called them up and said, no, don't do this, because I'm going to have to change it at 352 websites that I have my credit card on file. So nope, too late. Sorry. You'll have to go change it everywhere. Email address, hey, we all change our companies, your physical address, your 2FA token, you lose your passport, or passport expires, you get a new passport number, you have to enter it in all these places. And then, of course, even more problems. If this wasn't enough, even more problems at the last Black Hat conference that they said, well, RSA security is going to be broken in a few years, so you better switch off of that. And of course, that's the basis of SSL, basis of all security on the internet. So kind of a little problem here. So I think that the current system is non-fixable. It's kind of like a window that you drop, and you can put as much duct tape as you want on it. We call it multi-factor authentication, is our version of duct tape. And that still doesn't seem to solve the problem, because actually fraud rates have gotten worse. So what we need is wouldn't it be great if we had a single trustable identity, kind of like a passport, right? Your US passport gets you into, a few hundred countries, and people trust it, and really hard to break. And wouldn't it be great if we had something like that where you could use it everywhere on the internet? And of course, the problem is, who can you trust to issue such a thing, right? Because can you trust the US government? Well, we thought we could, but then there's a spying thing that they did that sort of all, broke all trust that we had that the federal government was on our side, right? So you can't trust the government. You really can't trust Google. You can't trust, even though they will do no evil, you can't trust them because, they're really the same as everyone else. Apple, Facebook, Twitter, Bank of America, you name it, you can't trust them. So, who can you trust? Anybody? Yeah. You trust yourself. That's exactly right. And so what we have to do to solve this problem is we have to think differently. We have to think differently about the identity problem if we're ever going to make some changes. So the way you actually solve this is to trust yourself, okay? And so instead of trusting your identity to someone else, what you do is you create an identity on your device with some crypto secrets that are created on your device and never leave your device. The only time they leave your device is go onto another one of your devices. And then you use digital cryptography, which is a fancy way of, it's kind of like the digital equivalent of a signature on a check. And signatures on checks, at least used to be like 20 years ago, they used to be really secure, right? Because you're the only one who can make that signature. The bank can verify it, but you're the only one who knows the secrets of creating that signature. And so it's really easy for you to create it. It's really hard for someone else to create it, but it's really easy for the bank to verify it. And so it's this asymmetry where the bank can easily verify it, but they can't forge your signature. And you can easily do your signature, but nobody else can. And so we have something in the digital domain called digital signatures that are really the equivalent of a paper signature. And so I'm going to use that equivalency just to explain how identity will work in the future. So even though it says Steve, we're not actually signing our name, with a pen or a stylus or anything. That's actually just numbers. And they're secret numbers that are based on what you're signing. So if you sign a document that it says, pay this amount, that the number that you compute will be different depending on what you're signing. And so there are really three elements. They're a creation of crypto signatures. They're using those digital signatures. They're using those crypto secrets to create digital signatures that you present at places like Best Buy or Walmart and so forth to log in or authorize transactions. And then you use the internet to go and store encrypted information that you can only decrypt on your devices. And so that's the way you break this, you create this new paradigm for identity that actually works. And so, thank you for that, right answer, trust yourself. And so basically here, you're basically trusting your own devices. And this, of course, makes mass break-ins impossible because they have to break into every individual device. There's no more million credit cards exposed. So instead of sharing a password with a particular website, instead you send the website a message saying, log me in, please. You give it your signature, and Best Buy will compare that with your signature on file, just like a bank would look at a check and would say, okay, it's okay for you to log in. And so this doesn't involve Facebook or whatever. It's really secure between the two parties. And from a practical point of view, what you do is you hit a button. You know, it's not like you have to sign anything. You just hit a button on your device because your device has your secret on it. Hitting the button releases the secret and causes the signature to happen. Now, there's something called federated identity, and that's where, you know, you have this Facebook button, this login with Facebook button all around the net, and you have a login with Google button. And the problem with that is that you're going to share a secret with Facebook, like password 1, which I know half the people in this room, that's your password. We just don't know which half. And you'll share that secret with Facebook, and then Facebook will tell CNN, hey, this is the guy. But see, Facebook has that database of password 1 or password 2 or whatever people's passwords are. And if you break into Facebook, then your identity is toast, right? And this happens all the time. You know, Twitter, you know, being a good example of a company gets broken into every few months, even though they have a superb security team. There's no way to protect that password database. And so this is frustrating. But in the new way, you have your crypto secrets, you give it to CNN, and CNN compares that with a public key database. In other words, it has all these signatures on file, just like a bank would, and it compares your signature with the signature on file, and you're logged right in. And you can you know, talk to the OneID or whatever repository in the cloud, and you know, get some data like what your address is, and pass that to CNN if you wanted to, and stuff like that. So you can leverage the cloud, but the cloud knows nothing. The cloud just has encrypted data. You own the data. So from a privacy perspective, then you say, oh, well, gee, that's nice. That's a great advance, but what about privacy? Can I still maintain my privacy with the digital signatures because my digital signature says Steve on it? Well, it actually doesn't. You know, it's just a bunch of bits. And the thing is that when you logged into Best Buy, you'll have one digital signature, but when you logged into Wells Fargo, you can very easily, your computer can construct a totally unique digital signature so that Wells Fargo can't compare the signature that they got with the signature of Best Buy and figure out that you're the same individual. So this is how we can protect privacy in the new digital world of digital signatures. And then, of course, there's security aspects, right? How do we make it more secure so that hackers can't go and, you know, if they get your computer, which they will, how can we make it secure? And so the philosophy there is to say that, you know, hackers are going to get your computer. We're never going to go and lock it down, and we're never going to go and train people to run malware checkers and all that. It's kind of a given that your computer is going to be compromised one day or another. And so instead of saying, you know, let's try to lock it down, let's just say, hey, that's going to happen. Let's design a system so it's immune to that. And so instead of putting security on every single purchase, so you go to the Apple iTunes store, right, and you buy Angry Birds or you buy some free app, right? And they say, well, enter your password, please. You know, and buy next free app 2 seconds later, and they still want to know, is it really you? You know, is it really you that's buying that free app? And they put security on every single transaction. And you know what? I've talked to the guys at Apple, named that this is like the #1 complaint in the iTunes store, is that why are you bothering me to put a password in to buy a free app for my device, especially if I just put it in like 5 seconds earlier? And so this is a better way, right? The better way is to say, look, if it's an easy transaction like buying a free app, we shouldn't challenge the user at all, right? But if it becomes a suspicious transaction, like I'm wiring $10,000 to my friend in Nigeria for advance, you know, there's an advance fee on anytime you get the 25 million. You guys know about, I'm sure everybody in this room has gotten the $25 million, you know, your relative, and you have to, but you have to send $10,000 for the transfer fees and the paperwork and the notarizations and bribing the officials and all that, right? So when you attempt to go and do a weird transfer like $10,000 to someone in Nigeria, that's the time that you say, okay, it's approved on my device, but then you get a little prompt on your mobile phone that says, hey, do you really want to send $10,000 to this guy in Nigeria? And enter your PIN code, please. So even if if you lost all your devices, you're still protected because they can't enter your PIN code. And if they enter your PIN code too many times, your device gets disabled, but only the device that you entered the PIN code on, not your entire identity. And so that way, we can secure things in such a way that if something is stolen, just the stolen device gets disabled instead of your entire identity getting disabled, which is what we have now. Purchasing. So when we purchase things on the internet today, the old way is you give them the credit card. Well, that's like sharing a secret. That's like sharing password 1 and giving it to a website and saying my password is password 1. Here, credit cards are the world's very popular shared secret that when I give my credit card to the waiter, I hope that the waiter doesn't share it with anyone. And I hope every time I give my card that the clerk doesn't look at it, memorizes it, and then I have to go and change my credit card because that's a pain. But all this time, I'm always sharing this secret with people. And of course, biometrics are even worse because you can't change your biometrics. You can change your credit card, but your biometrics, when you give someone your biometrics, poof, lost forever. So anyway, we have to share a secret. And if we have a recurring purchase, we have to keep that credit card on file, which means that somebody's going to break in to that repository of your credit card, and then you have to go and everybody's got to change their credit cards. So instead, if we make purchasing better by saying, hey, it's okay for Wells Fargo to pay Best Buy $5.25 for this purchase, and I send that to Best Buy, and Best Buy presents it to Wells Fargo, then we have a secure system where we're not sharing any secrets, that Best Buy doesn't know any secrets because it's just an individual transaction that they can't duplicate, and they can use it once at the bank, get the money, and that's it. They can't charge my card over and over. And so what this translates to from a user perspective is that a user goes to a site, they click the checkout button in the lower left, and then it says, okay, great, the total is blah, 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 and you click pay now, and you're done. You didn't have to enter a username, you didn't have to enter a password, and if it was a really bizarre purchase and it's being shipped to the wrong place and all that, then you might be prompted on your phone. But if it's not, then you did 2 clicks and you're done. It's actually easier to purchase this way than Amazon one-click, right? Because Amazon one-click, you still have to log in. So this is like 1 click less than Amazon one-click. Believe that. Okay, so end-to-end purchases, end-to-end security. So the security geeks all talk about end-to-end security, like that's the holy grail of security. And end-to-end means that the transaction is signed at the source, in other words, your devices, and you do a digital signature saying, hey, it's okay to pay $5.23, and then it's verified at the final end. In this case, it goes through Best Buy, it goes through Braintree, First Data, it then goes up to VisaNet, and it gets handed off all these places. Now, in the current system, we're sharing a secret. We're sharing a secret with Best Buy, sharing a secret with Braintree, sharing a secret with First Data, sharing a secret with VisaNet, and then sharing that same secret with Wells Fargo. This is a disaster in terms of exposing information that's supposed to be secret. Whereas if we switch it to digital IDs, all we do is we sign it at one end. It doesn't matter what happens. People can look at it. They can't use it. They can just look at it. They can't modify it. And then it's verified at the final end. And we actually have secure transactions for the first time ever. And then we talked about on-demand levels of assurance. So it's possible for a site to say, hey, based on this transaction, I want to prompt you for a password. Or, gee, based on this transaction, I think that's suspicious. I'm going to go and send a message to your cell phone, and not SMS, because that's not secure. But we'll send it through the app. And all you do is click confirm, and you're done. And if it's a really secure transaction, then we'll bother you to type in a 4-digit PIN code. But you know what? You can pick any PIN code you want, and you can change it, and there are no standards. So that's nice. So you can use 1Password everywhere. Now that's kind of cool. 1Password. My password for my OneID account is X. So 1 letter X. Okay, but I'm okay telling you that because nobody can log in as me. So you can go to OneID and you can try to say stk@oneid.com, and you can use my password X, and you can try to log in, and I'll see you in about 100 billion years when you crack my account. You'll never be able to get in. So I'm free to use my single character password on every single website, and it is not a security risk. And in fact, it's actually better than some passwords. So a lot of people talk about, oh, we have to get rid of the password. Well, actually, passwords are a good thing, right? Because they're sort of like three factors of identity. There's something you know, something you have, and something you are, where the last one is biometrics. So something you know is something like a password. Something you have would be like a device which has a crypto key in it. And something you are is your biometrics. And those are the three factors that are used for authenticating. And so passwords are actually a really good thing because there's something you know and it's something that you can change and so forth. So passwords are actually good. What's bad is the way people use passwords. And so this chart shows you the difference between a good password and a bad password. So this bad password is the thing that they tell you is actually good, right? It's really secure. It's really long. It's 3W2, ampersand. It's got all sorts of crap. It's 25 characters long. You will never remember it. You have to write it down, which is non-secure, and you're sharing it, and it's horrible. So these things that people say are good are actually bad, and the passwords that are really good or the passwords that people say are bad are actually good if you use them locally to decrypt some stuff on your device. So in other words, if you share your password X with this device here, and then it combines it with some crypto secrets, that is way, way more secure and better than anything else, than that long password there. So that's the difference between a good password and a bad password. And of course, this stuff can be really user-friendly. So to sign up with this, you don't have to be a cryptologist. You don't have to have like a PhD from MIT to do this. You can sign up just like you'd sign up for a Facebook account, right? First name, last name, email. You don't even have to type your email once. Wow, that's kind of cool. And you can sign up. And what happens is it actually creates crypto keys on your device. And then when you have another device, then you can move the crypto keys from that device to another device, and you're in control of your identity. And then there's this nice little control panel and let you change things and so forth. So the whole deal is that I think that the future of identity will be better. So what I'm here to say is that there's hope. There's hope for the future. See, I'm visionary here saying, hey, it's not going to suck in the future. This username and password stuff that we've been doing for 50 years, I think that paradigm will change. I think it'll actually change in our lifetime. I'm trying to lead the charge to make that change. And we can make it easier to use. We can make it more secure, more private, and give you guys more control. Of course, the challenge, of course, is that people have been using usernames and passwords for 50 years, right? So now we have a chicken and egg problem, right? I got this great new identity, and the chicken and egg problem, of course, is that, well, nobody has the identity, and no sites accept the identity. And the sites don't want to go and change their site to accept the identity because no one has one, and then no one wants to get one because there are no sites that accept it. So other than that, this is a great idea, right? Okay, so how do you do that? So it takes a while to figure it out, but eventually people wake up and they say, oh, gee, I'm an e-commerce site and I can do donations, and with this new identity system, my little donate $10 can actually then turn out to, press the button and it says, thank you for your donation. And that's really cool. And for a $10 donation, it's kind of like below your threshold. So it ends up, and because these identities are really hard to crack, this ends up being a very secure and very convenient way. And so everybody wins. You win because you can make that $3 donation that you really wanted to make, but you didn't make because it was so complicated and you had to fill out the form that was this long. And when we eliminate that, we make it easy for you to do what you want to do. Everybody wins. You win, you made the donation, the charity wins because they get the money, and you support the cause. And then the promise, the secret is, the reason I did this, I hate filling out forms at doctors' offices, and so I imagine one day in the future that I'll be able to walk into the doctor's office and they say, here's this 23 pages of medical history we want you to fill out. And I say, well, actually, I have all this information in my identity. Can I just release it to you? And they say, sure, right? And they send me a little notification to my cell phone, and it says, hey, is it okay to release your medical history? I click OK, and I'm done. And I didn't have to spend 30 minutes in the waiting room filling out the stupid form with the same information over and over and over again. And so that, to me, when we achieve that, we will have achieved a milestone, but it is within our lifetime to be able to see the day when you can have that kind of ability.